how it goes. Good luck to Hugo, Aurel, Complex, and Loso. Complex, the clear favorite. Let's see if he can win that first round as well.
Alright, here we go then. Round number 1 of the grand final of the 4Weekend is underway right here, right now. Loso, Aurel, Complex, and Hugo battling it out for the overall title. So far, it's going to be Hugo getting the whole shot and taking a little bit of an early lead, 13 to 14 seconds in. Remember, we're into a 3-minute long map there or thereabouts, so there's going to be plenty of opportunity for players to catch up to each other and plenty of opportunities for overtakes all the way through the round. In the meantime, it is going to be Hugo still leading with Loso, this time emerging as the first likely contender to try and take a stab at the lead of Hugo. Right now, it is looking like Hugo is able to continue piling on the rounds and piling on the lead, whilst able to withstand pressure from Loso, currently just within a tenth of a second, within striking distance of the Frenchman. In the meantime, behind Complex, 3/10 down, Hugo going a bit too wide and actually hitting the outside wall, so he will be shuffled back down to last position and lose a significant portion of time as well. And this time, Loso will inherit the lead, but look who's back there. It's Complex who emerges as the next contender to take over the lead as we head into side reel.
Yeah, it is Loso with a very good start here. Side wheel is now getting played. So if you guys didn't know, the map is a combination of 3 maps, and you know, all maps having a length of approximate 1 minute. And now we are on that second map that has been played yesterday as well. And now Loso losing time here on this map a little bit. And Complex comes back with a very aggressive line, but still Loso is leading the round by 0.1 of a second, so still a little bit of time. He was struggling with that successive jump combination that was here, and also this magnet that he missed in his semi-final in that first round, I suppose. So let's see if he can nail that one now. You want to opt for a very tight line there, and he's going to do that. Look at Hugo. Hugo overtaking Complex. Complex over the best line. Also, Aurel is coming closer here, so that's a great first round, and Loso might win it. Complex didn't lose a single round in the semi-final, and now he's already standing dead here and makes that mistake. Hugging the wall here.
Yeah, Complex going way too far on the outside at the first sequence of corners in Pulsar, which we are currently in deep in right now. And it's currently Hugo who came back after that early touch through the final part of Star Maker to come back to just within a 1/10.5 of final goodbye, aka Loso at the moment leading 2/10 of a second of a gap between first and second position. Can Hugo try to pull something out of his hat, try to have an ace up his sleeve to catch up to the Slovak? It doesn't seem like it so far, as Loso has managed to double the gap in the space of a couple of corners. We went from 2 to 4/10 of a second, close to that in terms of gap between first and second, and Loso looks pretty set to have a round win, but he must not actually be fooled and now go for the wrong finish at the wrong time. It should be a straight jump to the right-hand side for Loso, actually.
Wow, okay.
Who will finish with a 2:49.1. Hugo going to the left and finishing just 4/10 down. Aurel a further 3/10 down in P3, and Complex 2 seconds down with that wall hit at the entry into Pulsar, dropping down the 4th and being the first man to drop 10 points in his points tally.
Yeah, and that is not a start that Complex probably was expecting here. I mean, Complex losing usually 10 points in 5 rounds and not in 1 round. So that's an unusual situation. But also here we see Loso, after a great start and building up some momentum, maybe being too confident in that corner and making that mistake. So Loso already 1 second behind. Also Aurel with his first mistake here, or like not major mistake, he's half a second behind. So still something that he can catch up. And the final goodbye, aka Loso, is on P number 4 right now. Complex and Hugo on first and second, but look at that, Hugo also not with the best line. So Complex again showing us what he's capable of doing, and that is winning. And also I want to mention here, Hugo has made a mistake in that previous round, and he was still able to come back and get that second position. So that is a good performance from Hugo, and also here in this round facing it off with Aurel. And I think Complex is on a really good time here. He could clock in another 2:48 and maybe even drive the fastest match time that we have seen today. That was a 0.54. Complex was the fastest, but Hugo has the world record on this map.
Yeah, that was a 0.54. Hugo drove a 0.32 in the lead up to the second semi-final that you saw a little bit earlier on today. In the meantime, Complex, he's completely checked out up far. He's completely gone. 6.5 of a second ahead of Hugo and Aurel, with Hugo overtaking Aurel just before the banking jump right there, allowing himself to move up ahead of the 4 wheels man. in second position. In the meantime, Loso, yeah, has completely lost the plot. He's 2.5 seconds down on the leader, not really in any position to prevent big points losses. He cannot really limit the damage as he was able to in the previous round. And it's going to be Complex entering Pulsar as the clear leader with half a second of an advantage over Hugo, and there's no amount of high sideline and slingshots that can really cope with the pace that Complex has been really displaying so far this round. Although the gap has shrunken by a tiny bit, from half a second we went down to around 3.5 of a second right now between Complex and Hugo in first and second. Aurel has been left behind as well, currently sitting 6 tenths down on the leader in third position, and now Hugo trying to reel Complex back in this final few seconds of the map, the final few sections, as we're heading over the bump road, going over to the left-hand side, setting yourself up for the long right-hander, which continues on and on and on, and Complex continues to lead with a 2/10 buffer. It should be good enough for Complex as long as he doesn't mess up the finish really badly. It should be good enough for Complex going to the left-hand side of the finish. What's time going to be? 29.008, 1.5 tenths ahead of Hugo, with Aurel in third position and Loso down to fourth, 3 seconds down. Will be dropping back down to 48 points and dropped actually down to a triple tie with Complex and Hugo. Aurel down to fourth with just 44 points to his name.
That's something that you don't really see that often, you know, that it's so close already. I mean, it has been 2 rounds, Aurel falling behind, but no player really, like, you know, everyone has lost at some point, you know, Loso at Hugo, and then Complex getting yeah, first and then last. Aurel on second position twice, and Loso on first and last as well. And then we have the player who's... wait, no, Aurel was, of course, on third position twice. That's what I wanted to say. And Hugo on second place twice. There you have it now. So there you go. So 48, 48, and 48 points, and we have a good final. Our hands point limit, of course, is 60. And if you have 0 points, you have the final chance or the last chance activated, so you have to avoid losing one more round. And of course we play up until we have a winner, so not as in the previous rounds that we play up until there is yeah, you know, 2 people eliminated. We still play for that last spot, as Hugo gets a really good line. And also Hugo had a really nice ending section and has caught up a lot to Complex in that previous round. And look at that, Complex, what a fight do we have here. Complex still leading, but Hugo with a very inside line hits a very good apex, and with that has so much speed. What a good line from Hugo. hugo220, and Complex has made that mistake here. The first casualty has been reported, but also Aurel, no speed here, so it will be between Loso and Hugo.
It will be between Loso and Hugo. Complex, unfortunately, going for the very aggressive first apex on the double left, and he went all the way wide with so much understeer, with the car just going all the way across the track, with the track then falling away from him as he was trying to make it through to the right-hander that was on the downhill, and he went a bit too wide with the world falling away from him and hitting the wall, putting a pay to any chance of Complex continuing to be in the lead fight. At the moment, it is Hugo and Loso, first and second, with 2/10 of a second between these two. Hugo managing to go so far on the outside and straighten the car just in time at the exit of the dirt part to continue carry so much momentum forward with him and continue to widen the gap a tiny bit to Loso.
No
he
slide.
didn't get the slide. Ow, that's
pulling it, never mind.
Allowing Loso to move up into the lead, and that is going to be going from a 3/10 advantage to a 4/10 deficit from Hugo against Loso. That was so unfortunate for the Frenchman. In the meantime, Loso is going to be looking to make it just another -2 and try to retake the reins of this grand final of the 4Weekend right here, going very close to the outside wall on the long right-hander before the ring checkpoint. First jump, second jump, third jump is nicely, neatly, tidily done, and that is going to be the final corner. Then the jumps into the finish coming up for Loso, going to the right-hand side once again versus the left-hand side. 249.368 for Loso, losing 2 points. Hugo losing 6, Complex losing 8, and Aurel losing 10 points, finishing 4 seconds down on the leader and already almost down to the halfway mark. Just 34 points left for Aurel.
34 points left for him, and also Loso being lucky there, as well as Hugo, to say the least, because Hugo only lost 1 position, even though he has made a mistake. So that's really sometimes also a matter how you crash, you know, if you have to respawn, if you just hit the wall slightly, and for Hugo it was a mistake that was bearable. You know, he just got a no slide after the third turn, and or after that long stretch where he can't do a no jump. I think, not sure if that's a dirt section or I could be wrong with it, but after that you have to perform a left slide. So Hugo, oh, at 42 points, but it's not looking good for Aurel here. He's at 34 points, but of course, never underestimate someone like Aurel, who can always come back when it comes to him performing in a pressure situation. He's really good on those. He has played so many competitions. Back in 2019, there was almost no competition that Aurel didn't play. He has a really high esport earning because he just played all those, you know, small cups. And the bad part is, you know, when you practice for a cup and you play against someone like Aurel, who just is like, oh yeah, you know what, I'm just gonna sign up for that cup today. He practices the maps in between the cup and he gets better than you, even though you have practiced for those maps for like, let's say 5 hours. It's so frustrating to play against someone like Aurel because my man is just so good. And right now here he's behind by 0.4 of a second. Loso, Hugo and Complex are leading. So Loso off to a very good match. 46 points for him still on his account. And then Hugo and Complex really want to get that first position, but a great fight is going on here between them. Look at that. No one has made a major mistake yet. Only Aurel falling a bit behind. So let's go with Complex POV here for this round because it's actually really close. Now, really important that you get a good amount of speed over that part. And now reduce airtime and go very inside here on that dirt section. Oh, Loso slowing down, not getting it too well. And Hugo is overtaking him with that. Complex also not too far behind. Gets a good line into that part. That's the dirt section. That is also very tricky because you have to hit that outside dirt line. Look at Hugo's line. Very, very good. And also Complex overtaking Loso, even though he's not in a good round, but he's now on P3. What a good level that is. Loso also with a good line. Aurel is also in the mix. What a great round are we witnessing here. It's only the last part left. Who's gonna take it? Complex versus Hugo in the ending, but also Aurel and Loso are in the mix. It's only 0.2 of a second between the players. It's such a great round between them. Who's gonna win it? Hugo's still leading the race, but it's still so close to even call it here. Complex over the best amount of speed though over that downhill. That really reminds me of the 09 track from the new campaign, but it's all in this last part here. Who's gonna do it the best? You can full speed this right-hander here. Hugo no with a good line. Complex with the overtake, and also Loso's in the mix. Who's gonna win this round? It will be all down to the line for the finish as well. Loso's in the mix as well. It's 0.15 of a second, but it will be Complex winning even though Hugo has more speed. But who's going to win it here? It is Hugo with a better ending, and Hugo will stay behind, but at 2:48.85. Wow, dude. Sorry for overtaking hold around, but dude, what a round was that?
You definitely deserve that.
Oh my god.
0.01 of a second between first and second place. That is insane. And Complex takes over the lead of the match overall with 38 points, just 2 points ahead of Hugo and Loso, currently tied for second position. And Aurel, he tried his best to stay in the fight, and he stayed in the fight all the way up until the bitter end, but unfortunately for him, it was not enough for him to have any significant impact and try to cut his losses, and he's currently sitting on 26 points. It's getting dangerously close right now for the Frenchman, rocking the 4-wheels skin and the 4-wheels club tag. In the meantime, we're almost done with this first map, which is of course Star Maker, with Complex leading by 2/10 ahead of Hugo and Aurel in third place. Loso down to fourth place, 6/10 down on the leader after an early blunder after Sector 1. Here we go for the end of Star Maker then, with Complex leading pretty convincingly this round, and the gaps having spread out quite a fair bit. There's not really any significant like train and bunching up of the field. This time it's very much just everyone running their races one after the other, and Complex continuing to assert dominance. Let's take a look at him. He's gonna go for the bit of a wider apex first turn, clips the apex at the second left-hander. That is a very, very neat and tidy line from the Dutchman, who continues to cement his advantage, and Hugo actually under threat from Aurel and getting overtaken by Aurel, and that little squabble allows Complex to continue to scamper away into the distance and continue building a significant gap before the bank transition right there. More speed from Hugo, allowing him to catch back to Aurel and try to pull a move on him for second position. Aurel with a really tight jump, going a bit wide onto the consequent grass part though. allowing Hugo to move through into second place. But still, the gap is just 6/10 of a second between first and second. And look at Loso and Aurel scooting by. Bye-bye, Hugo. You're getting completely left behind. Actually, not quite, with Hugo catching back up to both Loso and Aurel as we head into Pulsar. And Complex is completely gone. There is absolutely no way that they're going to be able to catch up. 2/10 still managed to be recouped with the great outside line from both Hugo and Aurel. This time, Hugo trying to make a run up ahead and try to lead his fellow Frenchman to try and make the chase to the Dutchman up ahead. Currently, Complex still looking very, very hot on the heels of a very, very good round indeed, as we're heading towards the final 30 to 20 seconds of this particular round, with Complex still leading by 2/10 of a second. That entry to the third map was very good by both Aurel and Hugo, who are still very much in the hunt for the lead, as well as very much bigger positions, second and third right now. Hugo and Aurel in that order. Aurel with a bit of an inside line on the drop down. Complex still leading by an astonishing 4/10 of a second margin, and it should be more than good enough for the Dutchman to take the win here on this particular round. It's going to be to the left-hand side that he goes, and it's going to be a 2:49. Aurel tried as much as he could to snipe Hugo, but Hugo was able to get that second place finish just a few hundreds ahead of his fellow countryman. Loso down to 4th position, drops down to 26 points. Aurel down to 18 already, and Complex tries to pull a gap ahead. 36 points for Complex, 30 for Hugo.
Great start here he came back very much here, Mr. Complex, after not the best start here into the race. I hope volume is fine, by the way, guys. I'm just adjusting it because Geek is very low.
Discord, hello, stop messing the gain. I can't crank the gain any higher. Sorry.
I think we're all awake again, guys. Dude, that was way too loud, Tom. You should have.
Sorry.
You should have said that beforehand.
No, that was mouth against pop filter right there.
Okay, but I just adjusted it. You know, I think we're on the same level now. The game is a bit lower, so I think everything should be fine now. As Complex has found his way into the match, he's at 36 points, is leading right now. Also in this round, Hugo and Loso are also behind. Aurel, 0.2 of a second, and we have another great round in our hand. Look at that, approaching now. The second map will come into play. And it's still very even between them, very close to the wall here from both Hugo and Complex. Loso falling a bit behind, Aurel coming closer though, and Hugo also getting a good line over that part. Now this section, this uphill, really important that you get a good apex over that turn, that you set yourself up nice for the right turn. Aurel has to say bye-bye, makes that mistake, and there you go. We have only 3 players left here onto that drop down, and Aurel is 1.5 seconds behind, as it is still Loso leading the round. He wants to recoup that first position. But what a line was that. Loso had a really good start into the match, and of course, you know, that one round, that godlike round that we've had beforehand, was really standing in the way for Loso, because he has not been the best player with having the best outcome. But look at that line here from Loso coming back. That was really good here from him into the lead again. Complex and Hugo there, but Hugo with a mistake. And he is crashing just before the part where he's always catching up. But also Loso with a mistake there. So it's only Complex left here to, who has survived the round so far.
Yeah, he has to survive the round, man. Loso, it was all sorts of up and down, side to side, like a roller coaster in the particular round. He went just a little tad too high before the grass banking and did not carry as much speed as he would have liked, allowing both Complex and Hugo to catch him up. And then unfortunately that blunder at the start of the Pulsar part allows Complex to have a solid second lead. That's pretty much a boulevard that separates first and second position. In the meantime, Loso getting caught up to by Aurel, albeit maybe a little too late for the Frenchman to have any impact whatsoever, unless there's a significant mistake at the finish jump for Loso. In the meantime, Complex will reach the finish line and go for the left-hand side for good measure, 49.3, and on the right-hand side, Loso will finish with 7/10 down and -6. Aurel 3rd, and Hugo down to 4. I think that's the first very significant points loss across this playoff stage that we've seen Hugo actually be victim of, and we're down to 20 for both Loso and Hugo, and just 10 for Aurel. Complex continuing to soar ahead of the lead with 34 points to his name.
So 30, that's crazy. Already 14 points ahead. Really shows why he's the favorite going into that grand final here of the 4Weekend. A good competition is coming to an end with a very refined format. Great maps as well, and just a little bit of a twist, you know, just playing one map at the end. Just saying, you know, we don't want map luck on our side. You have to play all of those 3 maps in the grand final or in the quarterfinals and semi-final. Really cool. Really, really nice. But also Nurovsky is saying that this map is really hard to master. I agree with that, because we can see players, and that's usually not the case, going for so many different lines on all of those particular parts on this map, because this map is really offering this as well, which I like, but it's also a nightmare for a player as well, to not really knowing what the fastest line really is, also only having one day to figure out the entire map. And look at that line here from Hugo and Aurel fighting it out. Aurel, of course, does not want to get in that last position. Right now it's Loso, who's at 20 points, 6 seconds behind, and then there's Complex on 3rd position, who is the clear leader of this grand final points-wise, but not here in this round. Hugo and Aurel are ahead of him, and we still have a good fight that is going on. 500 between them, but Complex is bouncing back with a good lot of speed, but had to release here a bit too late, and Complex loses out on all of his speed, and he's out on that round. But look at that fight for 1st position, Aurel versus Hugo, and that is a great one that we are witnessing here.
Yeah, indeed, a very, very good fight. Both not getting themselves and pushing each other to the limit. Just 12 thousandths of a second at the split right there before the grass banking. Hugo taking the lead before the entry into the dirt and the magnet part right there. But Aurel still very much sniffing the exhaust of Hugo's car at the moment as we're heading into Pulsar. There goes the dirt entry, and down we go. This long left-hander before heading into the slingshot part here. Aurel taking the lead, but look at this line that Hugo has and the speed he's able to carry through, and he retakes the lead just like that with the great slingshot. Meanwhile, Aurel still continues to hold on for dear life and continue to get himself into the challenge of trying to dislodge Hugo for 1st place. Now Hugo trying to run a little bit ahead, trying to break the toe, even though there's not really any aerodynamic advantage here in Trackmania. It's still very much a proverbial toe that we're kind of talking about, because it still kind of gives the motivation for Aurel to continue pushing on and continue giving his best to try and catch up to Hugo. In the meantime, just 0.2 of a second separate these two Frenchmen, and Aurel went too early to the inside and hits the wall. That is going to be sealing that round, with Hugo moving up with a 1 second advantage over Aurel in the lead, and that is going to be the jump. Is it going to be the safe jump? I think it is. It is indeed a safe jump with a 249.5. Hugo only loses 2 points, Aurel loses 6 points. Loso managed to come back and only lose 8 points, all things considered, with that 3rd place. And Complex in 4th place has reached the finish line and will lose 10 points, will be down to 24. Still retaining the lead, despite the gaps having shrunken a tiny bit, and Aurel is the first man to dip down into the single-digit round. He needs to win if he wants to avoid, at least for this round, the last chance status.
And Aurel is definitely able to win this round here, because he has shown us in the previous round that he's able to do so. Maybe a bit of a shaky approach on that dirt section, because you've seen him, you know, Monka steering going into there, clipping the entry of that border that you have there, and just in general it was Hugo just really capitalizing from that. But right now Aurel, being 0.25 behind Loso with that first mistake, is right now with 12 points, not really in danger to get himself in that last chance mode, but with a minus 10 points he would definitely be in that mode in just 2 rounds from now on, like if you X through this round here. And also Aurel here on 3rd position. He needs 1st position in order to get not that red name attached to his car. Hugo and Complex are still a little bit further away, but it could be important for Hugo now to win that round, to come closer to Complex. It's a great fight, and that's also the storyline that we were talking about that beforehand. Hugo and Complex seem to be the fastest player out here, but of course it's still not over until it's over. Complex with an interesting line. Also Hugo drifts very early into that turn, pre-drifts there, and I really like that line from Hugo, but wasn't really able to come closer towards that, as Complex is still leading the round. And well, I mean, 3rd and 4th is almost set in stone, but a mistake can always happen. But who's going to win this round? Will it be Complex or Hugo?
So far, Complex has a solid option on winning the round with a quarter of a second of an advantage over Hugo, who continues to book it. He's definitely not letting up at the throttle no matter what. Hugo continuing to try and reel in Complex's advantage over the magnet. They go. What is the gap going to be at the split? It is going to be still in favor of Complex, who's actually widened the gap a fair bit here. 3.5 tenths of a second now in favor of the Dutchman as we head into Pulsar once again, and it will be the slingshot here that will be able to take Hugo to make the difference. That will enable Hugo to make the difference. There we go. Currently still a quarter of a second of an advantage for Complex, but Hugo managing to reel that gap ever so slightly back in. Complex doesn't actually have to let his guard on. He cannot afford to let his guard on. He has to keep himself on his toes pretty much all throughout the round. Currently still sitting on a very comfortable first place with a 2/10 buffer over Hugo, and Hugo so far definitely not letting up the pressure either. Playing the distance game, playing the waiting game, trying to force Complex to making a mistake, but so far mistakes have been very few and very rare on the side of Complex, who's been soaking up the pressure very well, although the gaps have shrunken a fair bit here. Can Hugo try to go for the daredevil snipe at the line? Complex getting reeled in very, very tightly here by Hugo. It's still going to be Complex winning with a 0.894, just a few hundredths of a second ahead of Hugo. Aurel down to third place will be the first man at risk. Was Loso. 4, 3, 2, 1, and he's going to be losing 12 points. We're down to 2 people at risk instead of 1.
Ooh. Oh, that's a face slap. Loso, minus 12. You get minus 12 for not finishing around, so that's a big F moment here for him, as he is also in last chance mode. Together now with Aurel, Complex and Hugo, still further away from that, but of course everything can happen. But let's see if the 4th position will already be decided in this round. Loso with a terrible start here, not really good. Also, I think didn't get the gear and then also had to adjust his drift, so he might be the first player who gets eliminated, even though he's only 0.5 behind, and he definitely showed us that he has the pace. And of course now in reverse cup mode, that's the beauty, but also the scary part for the players that can really mess up your momentum. If just one player makes a mistake and then you're like, dude, I saved that player, we could have been 3. This can really go into your head. That's a different challenge than in cup mode where you have to win. And there you go. Loso not with a bad line here, coming closer to Aurel, and also Complex and Hugo are not too far away.
Complex.
And what
Complex
about Complex?
having a bit of a had a bit of a wonky transition with a bit too much airtime compared to Hugo. So now we're down to a neck and neck situation as we head into side wheel. Now let's see if we're going to see 2 different trajectories with aggressive double apexes, and here Complex trying to go for the very late apex, though Hugo with a very aggressive entry was managed to carry so much speed, and Complex unfortunately going a bit too far on the outside again. It's not the first time that he's done this, but these come very rarely from Complex, when he went a bit too far to the outside and unfortunately hit the wall, and here it was a full stop pick into the sign for Complex, so game over for him. In the meantime, Hugo has been able to pull a gap of 4/10 compared to both Loso and Aurel, who are still fighting neck and neck for that second place in this particular position. They can thank Complex for actually taking over that last position and actually falling back down this far, because they will still be in with a shot of actually continuing the round, of continuing the match, and potentially try to aim for a podium spot potentially, as they are only just trying to fight for Hugo for the lead. And right now, 4/10 of an advantage for Hugo. I don't really think that Aurel or Loso have the chops to actually catch him back up, unless there is a significant blunder from Hugo in this last section of the map right now. But so far so good for the former Phalo 9 Hetzek player, who is currently looking very much set on another round victory in just a single -2 points that would allow him to catch up to Complex by just a 2-point deficit, as we're moving on to the final few corners of the map. Aurel forced to release a tiny bit, losing a bit of speed, allowing Loso to move up into second position, as we're moving on to these jump transitions right here. Final corner for Hugo, as well as Loso and Aurel, who are still locked in the battle for second and third position for the honor rather than any significant advantage in points. Hugo will win with the 249.156, and Loso will be able to retain second place ahead of Aurel, whilst Complex will be reaching the finish line now and lose 10 points and drop down to just 12 points and still lead with just a 2-point advantage over Hugo. So just one DNF can be devastating.
Definitely. one DNF can be devastating, and we could also maybe see Hugo DNFing. I mean, theoretically this could happen, but now the match is really kicking in. It's two players who are still in last chance mode, and that's what I was talking about just beforehand. You know, Complex now with a mistake. Maybe he's like, dude, you know, I could have knocked out one player, but you know, what a fight would this have been between Loso and Aurel for that fourth position, you know, whoever gets last there. But now Loso again with a worse start, and Complex also with a release, not getting or reducing the airtime accordingly there, so not really getting the best amount of speed here, but bouncing back quite nicely as Loso is still in a fight with him. So Aurel looking great and probably not be in danger of getting eliminated in this round, but Loso is fighting versus Complex, and Hugo can definitely capitalize from that, and we could see a new leader. It could be a quadruple last chance mode. This could really happen. I would be really hyped for that actually, because then we have 3 more rounds as Complex gets a little bit of airtime there and lose additional time. Oh, and makes that mistake, had to release, and that loses him a lot of time though. Look at that, but also Loso not really with the best line, but Loso was really good on that last section, but also Complex. But that's not the Complex from the semi-final that we are seeing here right now.
Not the Complex from the semi-final, not exactly the Complex from the early part of that grand final. He seems to be a little bit more hesitant, and yeah, it seems as though, well, not exactly panic, but a little bit of apprehension is setting in, unfortunately for him. And yeah, he's not really able to cope with that at the present moment. We know he can cope with that in the long run, but right now, he's very much in a tough spot, currently trying to catch up to Loso with for third position and trying to cut his losses a little bit. Meanwhile, Hugo and Aurel are having a field day out there, especially Hugo, continuing to lead his fellow countrymen by just 0.2 of a second as we head into Pulsar here on this round. Hugo still firmly leading by 1/4 of a second ahead of Aurel. Loso still just a few further tenths down, and Complex 1 second down almost on the leader, and going too far to the outside and hitting the wall. It's over. It's pretty much settled for him that he will get a -10. In the meantime, Hugo mounting the comeback of his life right now, set to potentially take over the lead of this grand final of the 4Weekend right here. He's half a second ahead of Aurel, and a further half a second ahead of Loso down in third position. Complex still rolling, but 2.6 seconds down on Hugo, who's very much commanding this round no matter what from beginning to end. As we're moving on to the final few corners, this long right-hander before the ring CP, first transition jump, then the second and the third. Hugo continuing to pull out a significant gap, 7/10 now. This is a very great round for Hugo. Is he going to go for the left-hand side? No, he goes for the safe in again. It will be a 49.0, 7/10 ahead of Aurel. Loso down to third, and Complex, who was on 22 points and leading the match 2 rounds ago, is now down to single digits along with Hugo and has 6 points to make up for. Both Hugo and Complex are now within striking distance of another last chance, and Complex needs to fight for dear life, but so do Aurel and Loso.
Okay, hear me out. Hugo getting last, and then we have a quadruple last chance.
Not even getting last, Hugo getting third.
Yeah, but I mean last in terms of that Loso and Aurel, it doesn't matter where they end up, you know? That's what I mean.
Oh yeah, true.
But yeah, that would be the storyline. Imagine that. Maybe it's 4 more rounds, maybe 3 more rounds. It could all go into play. So let's see what will happen, as Loso has a really good line over that part. Aurel falling behind. But yeah, we have a great grand final here in our hands, as no one really falling majorly behind. Aurel, however, is 0.1 behind. Loso with a good line here as well. Hugo almost touches the wall. It's so close between them. Good transition over that dirt section here. Hugo getting a good landing there as well, and he knows that he is in the lead points-wise, and that he has maybe one last chance mode. Yeah, that he can avoid a bullet that he can dodge, or maybe even 2. It's all in his hands, but of course he needs to fight against Complex, who's right now leading. Aurel, of course, being in finalist in last chance mode, and he cannot afford to lose a single more round, and he has to push now. Gets a good line. Loso slowing down, had to release a tiny bit by the looks of it. It's 0.15 of a second between them, but it is now a clear gap between second and third position. As you can see here, Hugo and Complex are having a good time there, but it's still not over. A mistake can still happen, as it's a great fight between Aurel and Loso here for that last spot. And it seems like that Aurel is losing it a little bit, but gets a good line. And now this third section is really decisive. Who's gonna make a mistake here? It is Complex now with the best line, and he's actually falling down to last place here together with Aurel. It's so close. There's 1 minute left. Now here the release timing on that dirt section. No one has made a mistake so far, and it's still super close. Loso so close there to the wall, almost touches there. Oh my god, that is super close, and this will all go down to the ending. Now Complex again falling down to last position. Aurel with a good low jump here, and it is now Loso also falling down. Dude, I cannot handle that. Hugo now with a bad line, and we might have a fight here for the ending. 30 seconds left between all of those 4 players. It's 0.15 of a second after 2.5 minutes of driving. It is incredibly close, but it seems like Aurel is having not the best time here, even though he had a really good ending section. But we might have to say bye-bye to him, even though he was pushing here, and I respect that. And he has made that mistake, so Aurel will be eliminated unless someone makes a mistake at the ending, which can surely happen. Aurel will take that 4th position. Loso jumping so far here to the left, but goes for the safe ending. Is anyone failing that? Nope. And it will be Aurel taking P4.
Man, 0.008 between Hugo and Complex. Complex denying the -2, so just breaking Hugo down to just 2 points. We still have a double finalist on our hands. GG to Aurel, who gave it his all, but in the end, close but no cigar. He comes away with still a little bit of monetary gain, 60 bucks for him. In the meantime, we've got another dual risk round on our hands with Complex and Loso, both fighting for survival and both trying to bring down Hugo to potentially force it into a triple for the last few podium spots. Well, to decide the order of the podium, essentially, because those people are top 3 guaranteed. Now moving on to this round, we see Hugo taking over the lead with Complex right on his tail, with Loso down to 3rd position, just a few tenths down. Not really anything bad to report, just maybe a bit of a sluggish start compared to both Hugo and Complex. You can still catch that back up in the subsequent parts of the map coming up right now, as we're heading towards the final third of Star Maker, which was of course our first sector right here on Spectrum. You see Hugo continuing to build the gap up ahead compared to Complex, 0.2 of a second between all these players right here. Coming onto side rail now off of Star Maker, and Complex having slowed down dramatically here into that banked double right-hander, allowing Loso to catch up big time and mount a challenge for 2nd position, trying to bring down the Dutchman Madman, who was absolutely dominating the semis. And here Complex going for his signature line, going very wide before trying to go for the tight 2nd apex. So far it's paying off, allowing him to recoup the 2nd place he lost to Loso. In the meantime though, Hugo going very close to the wall, taking fine margins, stretching all the way to the edge of the track and then some, continuing to try and lead up ahead and continuing to try and build up the gap. Complex with a very wonky transition into the grass banking, allowing Loso to move up into 2nd position. He manages to get away with it though, and is still in with the fight at the present moment, so he is completely not out of the running just yet. In the meantime, Hugo continuing to hold on for dear life for that leading position. How can he continue on like this? He is absolutely on rails. In the meantime, Loso doesn't really have any answer as we head into the slingshot part that has favored Hugo so much. And look at Complex as well with the great dirt line. Loso has really dropped the ball big time here and is now at threat of actually being knocked out of the 4Weekend right here. Complex overtaking him, trying to go for the very aggressive inside line right now. Moving up into 2nd position. Loso currently sitting in 3rd, trying to think of a way to try and bring Complex down and try to overtake him, trying to make a move. Not quite fast enough to do so. Hugo in the meantime, half a second ahead on that squabble for 2nd position. He's completely on another cloud, another planet at the moment, with Hugo just rounding out the final few sectors. Complex in 2nd position has also opened up a fair bit of a gap compared to Loso, but he's still very much within touching distance though, so no mistakes allowed for the Dutchman. In the meantime, Hugo should be able to take the round win. Complex getting reeled in. Look at Loso with more speed, trying to go for the right-hand side. No, he does not pay off. He tried to book it as hard as he could, and 0.598 for Hugo. Loso will drop down to 3rd, but what an insane round from Hugo. Absolutely untouchable. And here we have it, the final round, the mano a mano, eye to eye between the Netherlands and France. Hugo versus Complex for the 240 euros of cash prize, and most importantly, the title of 4Weekend champion for the first time.
who will take it. But what a great risk there from Loso. It was almost enough actually to snipe Complex there. I think if he was managing to get that one through, would have been cool to see if he went for the other finish, you know. Then we could have seen the direct comparison, but like that wasn't the case. And look at that, Complex now having the best start, even though Hugo was leading. But this one detrimental snipe here from Complex versus Hugo, 8,000 of a second. It was very important for him to just knock Hugo down to last chance mode here himself. Hugo bounces back with a great line, goes into the lead. Oh, good line from Hugo. He has so much speed here to work with. Look at that, so much speed accumulated, going so close to the barrier there as well. Hugo is pushing so much here, and he is not slowing down. Complex 0.15 behind Hugo, but Hugo seems to be on a great run. He smelled blood in that previous round, did a 0.59, which is the equivalent of the second or even like third world record if you exclude
top 3 time,
his time here. But look at that, it's only a couple of seconds left here on this track, only 1.5 more minutes, so 100 seconds roughly, give or take, as we are going down into this drop here. Both players are doing it very nicely, but Hugo way too much there. Hugo throwing for skates, but Complex with a mistake as well. Hugo with a mistake as well. It is Complex still leading the round.
What the fuck just happened?
Kidding me? You are throwing it away here harder than my power was in 2014. What is going on? Both players are throwing so bad, and it will be Complex winning here eventually. He's leading by 5 seconds, and thank you so much for the content, but what is going on? This is for the title, and Complex has it.
Sorry for the French, mais qu'est-ce que t'as branlé, Hugo? C'est quoi cette merde? Qu'est-ce qui s'est passé? They both flunked at the exact same section, just a few seconds apart, and Hugo is completely in shambles. He cannot really recoup that time lost, and yeah, we've had a stellar match, but that final round, I mean, people will say this is scripted. I don't think it is. I don't think both of us could have predicted either of what just happened. But yeah, Complex. I think either of those would have really deserved that particular victory. But yeah, all decided on the very, very messy grass banking to jump transition. That was unfortunate for Hugo. Complex, in the meantime, just a couple of jumps left to go, and he can just cruise it all the way home and take the safe in. GG to Complex, who takes the title in the 4Weekend and the 240 euros that come with it at the end of an absolutely zany round. Hugo gave it all he could and was looking like a hot favorite as well, but in the end, that particular grass section, that transitional section, got the best of him.
Yeah, wow. I mean, it's 240 versus 180 euro, but still you will feel gutted to just get second instead of you could have gotten first. Hugo had that opportunity, and yeah, well, that's all she wrote. That's the 4Weekend coming to an end. A great competition, a nice map, and wow, what a grand final. One of the best match or better matches. Probably one of the top 10 matches I've casted this year, definitely. Yeah, very cool match, also together with Geek. Yeah, thank you very much. So GG's to him.
Well,
and
thank you very much for having me on board, man. It's always a pleasure to do duo casts together. We haven't had the occasion to do it last year, but now this year we've been able to do it, and it's always a pleasure to be able to do those duo casts, be it online or IRL.
Yeah, it was really great. Like the last couple of weeks, we were actually been casting a lot. Also Boney and Import, of course. It was a lot of fun. I hope you guys enjoyed the cast, though. I will actually rest now and chill a bit. Not gonna play any match or continue streaming because I feel really drained out, as well as Geek, who has also had a long marathon behind him. And we are just gonna end it here. But thank you again, guys, for watching as well. You know, there was not too much... actually, we had less viewers in the grand final than we had in the semi-final, even though the grand final was absolutely stacked. But thank you so much for joining anyways. And without further ado, guys, I'll just end the stream. And I'll see you guys on Tuesday for another stream. And you have the last word, Tom.
All right, so as far, well, I can just do a little bit of a self promo, so make sure to follow me at TMG Geek on both Twitter and Twitch. And if you are actually up for some casts on my end, on my particular channel that I told you to follow, then make sure to tune in. I think it should be on Sunday, or it will be thereabouts next week, because it will be Speed Premiership Season 11. That's right, we're coming back to being Speed Slider Andes, and for another season that will run all the way up until mid-December, which I'm very excited to cast for, in what will likely be my first full season cast for the 2022 year, and I'm looking to end this year on a banger, because it's been an absolute blinder of a year for me thus far, and for everyone involved in Trackmania for that matter.
Yeah, so guys, really give Geek a follow both on Twitter and also on Twitch. You have the shoutouts here. He's delivering. He's one of the best, if not even the best caster in the game. So thank you so much for joining, Tom. It's always a pleasure. I think it's
my pleasure as well.
is great as well. Anyways, guys, have a good one, and I'll see you guys around. So good night and enjoy your Sunday. But I have to chill. I have to calm down and still have to do some assignments, and I'm probably just gonna fall asleep now.
All right, Godspeed, people.